Hello, my name is Maggie B. Land, and I'm the Career Management Specialist from the Career Center that primarily works with business majors. My webinar today is on resume and job search communications. So we're going to do about a quick 10-minute webinar that details your resume and other job search communications. Let's get this webinar started. Okay. Resume writing. So a resume is the most epic document that you will ever write because one, it details all of your professional experience and it's what you use to market yourself. So your resume needs to be readable, concise, and it has to convey your personal brand. There is no such thing as bragging on a resume, but you want to make sure that everything in your resume is true. Do not lie on a resume. Format. So your font size is going to be between a 10 and a 12, serif versus sans serif font. Your margin should be no more than an inch and no less than a half an inch. And your sections are going to vary. So your resume, it may be a page or it may be more than a page. That depends on the experience that you have. Most students have a page and the formatting will be the same whether or not it's a page. You always want to write an invisible first person when you're using bullets. So instead of saying, I assist customers in choosing appropriate merchandise to meet your needs, you're just going to start with that strong power verb, assist. You're not going to have I on your resume. If you're currently at a job, you want to use present tense. If you're no longer at a job, you want to use past tense. Again, we said how your resume sections are going to vary based on your experience. These are some very common sections to have. Everyone's going to have contact info. Everyone's going to have education and some type of experience. But not everyone needs an objective. Not everyone does volunteerism. Some of you have certifications, some of you don't. So what I like to do is I like to make a list of everything that is going to contribute to me getting hired for a job and then use that information to build my resume. A lot of people call that a brag sheet. So if you don't have a resume and you're trying to make one, that's a great way to get started. Resume mechanics. Okay, so you're going to focus on what you learned and accomplished. The basic thing to do is to regurgitate everything you did at your job, but we're going to go a step above that. So we're going to qualify and quantify our experiences. So qualifying your experience means infusing those transferable skills. Making sure they know that you have great communication, organization, time management skills. And quantifying means that you're going to use numbers appropriately. So if you go down to the bottom, increase fundraiser attendance by 25%. That's an appropriate place to use a number. And it adds context to increasing fundraiser attendance. You're going to use appropriate industry keywords, no abbreviations. So for example, if you're in a club on campus that's known by an acronym, on your resume you need to spell that out because not everyone you interview with is going to be a Rutgers alum or is going to know what that acronym means. You're going to target your resume to job postings. So you're going to have a cover letter and a resume and then you're going to update them for each job. So you're going to use relevant info from the job posting, you're going to highlight it, you're going to infuse it into your resume. So for example, you may have a resume cover letter combo for HR, for sales, for management. You're actually going to take the appropriate combo. So let's say you're applying to an HR job. You're going to get your job description and you're going to highlight, okay, what do I have in this job description? And you're going to make sure that's highlighted in your resume and your cover letter. I'm a big fan of work smart, not hard. So that's sort of what I tell students to do. Use power verbs. Do not use weak words. So I never want to see responsible for on your resume. You're going to use good verbs because they're more credible, they add more impact, and it takes less space. So your space is limited. Most of you are going to have a page. So you're going to use really good verbs. Because think about it, an employer takes maybe 10 to 15 seconds to read your resume. If your resume is using space in a way that doesn't benefit you, if it's taking up too much space, they're not going to read the whole thing. It's not going to have the same impact. So using power verbs is a really great way to cut down on the space you need. And having a good format also helps with that. And if you get your resume critiqued by the Career Center, you'll know that you're using good verbs, you're using good format. And I'm going to go over the critiquing a little later in the webinar. Cover letters. Yes, you should use one. It adds dimension to your application. So let's say student A and student B both apply to a job. I've never met them in real life. I literally see their applications and they're equal candidates. If student B uses a cover letter, I know more about student B. Student B told me a story instead of just giving me a resume. So I'm more likely to hire student B. That's why you use a cover letter, because it adds dimension to your application package. It's a great opportunity to relate your job experience to the requirements. So if you're a student that has good experience, but it's not exactly the same thing, you can take your transferable skills and relate them to the job experience. It should be a page or less with business style formatting. It should be short and sweet. All right? And it should answer these questions. Why me? What do I bring to the table? Why this position? And how do I fit the company culture? Remember, you're building a case of how are you qualified? And your cover letter is helping you build that case. Thank you emails. You should always send a thank you email after an interview, an informational meeting. An informational meeting is when you meet with someone to ask them questions about their job, the field, after a networking event, but especially after an interview. It is a requirement. It's a great way to make a good impression. So, here's an example of a short, sweet thank you email. If your thank you email cannot fit on a slide in a webinar, you know it's too long. So, dear Mrs. Land, thank you so much for extending an interview for the Nonprofit Management Internship at JDRF. It would be a dream come true to use my communication skills and Greek life experience at an organization that positively impacts type 1 diabetes research. I also enjoyed discussing K-12 education's role in promoting awareness. If you have any additional questions about my candidacy, please reach out. Okay. I do want to point out a few things. It's grammatically correct. I used titles. It's formal. In any professional correspondence, you're going to use proper names and titles unless otherwise specified. I would rather you be safe and use them. This is not a text message. Use correct spelling and grammar and avoid emojis. Do not use emojis. I'm going to say it one more time. Do not use emojis. I've actually had employers tell me how annoying that is. Have a signature with your contact info and professional information, even if you're a student. That's a great idea. You want to take your time and read it aloud, because when you write something, you know what you meant to say, but when you read it, it may not convey that. You want to avoid blind copying and just copy people that are involved. However, with a thank you email, you want to send a separate thank you email for every person that was involved. So if you were interviewed by 3 people, you send each of them a separate thank you email. If an administrative assistant or a secretary set that interview up for you, you want to thank them as well with a separate thank you email. The copying and the blind copying come more into play with work emails. Resume and cover letter resources. You're going to find Career Center website information. You're going to find in our job and internship guide cover letter and resume examples. You'll also find resume and cover letter examples for your major. Especially if you're accounting, there are certain ways you should format that are different. So you'll find an example on the Career Center website. You can also get your resume critiqued. I think I mentioned that I was going to bring this up later. If you never make an appointment with the Career Center, let's say you don't have time or you're just not interested, at least email us your resume to get it critiqued. I don't want you going out into the professional world with a resume that doesn't reflect how awesome of a student and how great of a candidate you really are. So at least get your documents critiqued. You can do that via email. You can drop them off at the Career Center. You can go to our Resume Madness events. And here's how you get in touch with us. So that's our phone number. This is the email that you would send your resume or your cover letter to. We're in the lower level of the campus center, across from South ABC Conference Room and below the Starbucks. We do in-person, phone, and Skype appointments. So whether you're an on-campus student or an off-campus student, we will work with you. Just make the appropriate appointment. I really enjoyed talking to you today about resumes and cover letters and professional correspondence. If you have any questions, do not hesitate to reach out, and have a great day.